Okay, it is 6 p.m., so we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda.
And we have one.
We do have one addendum to act on tonight, so please.
To adopt the agenda with the addendum.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as printed with the addendum. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 3.0, approval of minutes from the April 16th meeting.
Move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second. Moved and seconded to approve those minutes as printed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 4.0, consideration of bills and warrants. Do you have any questions about the bills this month?
Move to approve the bills and warrants as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those bills and warrants. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving to 5.0, hearing of requests and suggestions of citizens and organizations. Is there anyone in our audience this evening that would like to address the board that's not already on the agenda elsewhere? Seeing none and hearing none, we'll move to 6.0, special presentations. A Healthier U.S. School Challenge Awards and OPA year-end wrap-up from Ms. Morrison.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to start off with having Jenna to introduce herself. She's going to be our new food service director. I've been promoted to a training specialist, so I'll be moving to Arkansas to head up some programs there for OPA. So I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself and give you some background.
Hi guys, my name is Jenna Derringer. I got my bachelor's in restaurant hotel management from Texas Tech. Try not to say that too loud during basketball season. And then after that I worked for Cisco Broadline Distributor, and I also managed the dining hall at Pitt State for a little bit as well. And I'm super excited to see what I can do for y'all today and for the time being, I guess. Now it's your turn.
Okay, I'm just going to go over some. We were supposed to have a presenter here tonight for the U.S. The Healthy Challenge Award. I'm just going to go through it briefly. I've told you guys about this award several times. We finally got everything set up for it, ready to go. They were supposed to present the plaques tonight and also the banners for each school. And each school will be getting $500, and they can use it in any way they can. So we'll be getting the plaques to you guys at a later date, and also the banners. I'm just going to go over the employee stats. Middle school, all positions are filled. High school, we're in need of one more staff there. We have a total of 16 staff, and we were able to retain 90% of our staff this year, which was a very good thing. We struggled with that last year, but this year we're looking really good going into the new year. The overall program, we're meeting our lunch and our breakfast goals. At 3 of our schools, we're serving 75% of the children for lunch, and at another 3, we're serving 35% for breakfast. Jenna's going to introduce some new programs to increase some of those breakfast numbers, and also to bring up the other 2 schools that's not meeting the 75% in the lunch area. One of our OPA employees this year was awarded the Employee of the Year for the Kansas School District, and we'll be presenting that to her at Guthridge Elementary on Thursday. So if you guys see her over at Guthridge, I'd like you guys to congratulate her on that. It was out of 11 district. Pardon me?
Who is it?
Vicki Grass. She was with the district for I think about 2 years, and then she was with Tahar, and she's been with us for 3 years. So she's been with us for about 6 or 7 years, the district itself. We'll be starting our summer lunch program. May 21st through June 15, and right now we have about 50 kids that are qualifying for that program. And we've also placed the flyers out for the summer school program that's headed up by Miss Elaine Hudson, so that the other kids that don't qualify for this one will be aware of the program that's going on for the summer.
And you're doing Paint Parsons, right? You're
Pardon me?
doing the meals for Paint Parsons.
Am I doing what now?
The meals for Paint Parsons, the
Group of kids
the
come in
group
to
of kids
paint.
come in and they
The
do
work
it
camp.
for the,
Oh, yes, for the work camp, yes.
okay. the
That's
work
going to be
camp.
the 18 through the 14. Right now, they got about 150 attendees that are coming. I did touch base with Liz today, so she's trying to see if any more kids are going to volunteer, but they're not going to cancel it, from what she's telling me, that they will proceed with the 150 that they have.
Further discussion or questions?
Congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
Okay, moving on to 6.0B, District Technology Update. Mr. McGuire?
Hello.
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 Basically here just to take any questions you guys may have, kind of give you a general overview of where we're sitting.
You missed me. You missed somebody.
Here you go.
Okay.
There's
Yeah,
extra
sweet.
floating.
Okay,
We're good.
very good, thank you.
We're doing really good this year. We got some money. We were able to make a lot of iPad purchases, which is where the bulk of the money went, because we still had second generation iPads in many of the buildings, and they would no longer update to the newest version, so software wasn't working anymore. And so some of those were also testing devices, so we really got aggressive on those this year. So here is kind of a quick overview of where we're looking at. We're looking really good. This is about the best I've seen it for quite a while because of this year, so thank you for the funds to be able to get like this. Again, that 30 at Guthridge is just an older cart that they decided to keep in just for word processing. So it's not on the replacement cycle, but I need to note it in there anyways. Because of last time, we were I kind of had some questions on where were we in terms of one-to-one, so I included that again, where we're sitting. We were able to get at least a new cart in every building on top of what we already had, and so that kind of threw our numbers up. So we're doing pretty good.
So, just because we do have some newer board members here, can you explain the green, yellow, and red just
Yes.
briefly?
Red means that it's not performing its desired task. It needs to be replaced. And again, these 30 red are just there just to note that, hey, they're there, and when they die, they die. Yellow is that they meet expectations, so whatever environment they're in, they're able to run everything adequately. And then green is they exceed the environments that they're being run in. So even though there may be slower computers in certain environments, if they're not tasks with as many things, then they may be yellow instead of red.
Okay.
So would the yellow ones be used for testing maybe?
Yes, many of the yellow devices are used for testing, but
So if there's a heavy bandwidth, then they will be the slower ones, correct? Maybe not, maybe
no,
so?
the bandwidth is more of an internet issue, and that we've are doing well on that, and that reflects the devices themselves.
Themselves, okay.
Our speed has not been an issue since we've upgraded to a 1 gig per second. So
And all of the principals said how much easier testing was this year.
with the
more.
additional devices, so
I have a question.
yes.
Do you have a red flag program when certain words come up when kids are on the internet, so that they're not on Reddit or chat room or the dark web? Do you have a program? Some schools have a program, just like the KBI does, if certain
Correct.
words come up. then?
Yeah, we have, right now, we use Gaggle Human Monitoring, and that's mainly for our email and our digital locker. Since we're moving to Google next year, we're going to be a Google school. We're actually looking at a different program that Linda actually forwarded to me, which is called Bark.
Okay.
That kind of covers that same thing. In terms of if someone gets flagged when they go somewhere, that can be set up, and that is set up, but you almost need a full-time person to go through all that. So we basically concentrate on making sure they don't get there. It's all done in the back end. We don't actively, like if we have something that does come up, we can look it up. And,
That's what, okay. So you can't trace.
Oh yeah, we have records, we have.
Okay.
So they prevent it rather
Well, I understand
than.
that.
Correct.
Okay.
But then if stuff does get through, yes, we do have ways of tracking that, so.
And you can actually take control of any computer in your office, true?
Most computers, yes.
We had one incident at a school this fall or winter, but I think it came up pretty quick.
Good. Very good.
Yeah, and we're able to isolate,
Right.
kid to the device, and if we get the help of the staff, so we could do that pretty effectively.
So we're not a bring your own device school district, correct?
We are not currently.
Further questions for Mr. McGuire? Okay, thank you very much for
All
your
right, thank you.
assistance with this and your update. Okay, moving on to 7.0, report of the superintendent of schools.
We have 2 positions open for the USD 503 representatives on the Recreation Commission Board. The terms are 4 years, beginning July 1 of 2018 and ending on June 30th of 2022. And if anybody's interested, they should send a letter to the Parsons District School, USD 503, P.O. Box 1056 in Parsons. The deadline is May 31st, 2018, and we're required to notify the public that these positions are. We have 2 people currently. They've both expressed an interest in staying on, so we'll see who all we get to apply. May 16th, which is Wednesday night at 6 o'clock at the middle school auditorium, is the 8th grade promotion. The last student day is May 17th. The last teacher day is May 18th. The district office will be closed for Memorial Day on May 28th. And our next board meeting is June 18th at 6 p.m. here.
Thank you.
And we do appreciate Barb McClellan being here as a fill-in. Miranda had a graduation tonight, so, or a promotion or a.
Okay, thank you. 8.0, report on the May Tri-County Board meeting, Ms. Thompson.
The coordinators presented a slideshow on the Special Olympics, Victory Games, Little Victories, and the Gifted Expo. All events were successful and fun for our students, and the Gifted Expo looked very impressive with the projects that the students presented. Professional development for next year will focus on behavior strategies. Summer professional development opportunities have been scheduled for first and second year teachers on explicit instruction and reading and math strategies. We approved Tri-County's calendar for the next academic year. We had an update on the transition plan between Julie and Emily. And lastly, all Parsons Tri-County positions are now filled.
That's good.
And Tri-County is doing some behavior training, and we have one behavior classroom that is, the staff is employed by 503. And I asked Tri-County, and they told me that she would be more than welcome to come along to their training. And that's such a specialized training, so I think it'll help our elementary program for her to have some behavior training. We'll just have to provide the sub for her during the school year.
Any questions? Thank you. 9.0, reports by principals. Mr. Rogers, I see you're in the crowd.
Mr. Orton is at Golf Regionals in Coffeyville.
I have an update on it.
Okay, well, good.
I only made 7 of them, but if you want to pass that around. I do have an update on our regional golf. We did qualify 1 for the state tournament. That will be Monday in Emporia. Drew shot an 86. He took 7th place he got a birdie on the first playoff hole, so he drove the green and was putting for eagle and ended up with a birdie, so he won on that first playoff hole. So he'll go to Emporia on Monday.
His last name is?
Fuentes.
Fuentes.
I mean, I know that.
Yeah, but the public needs to know that, yeah. I agree.
So, I want to give you an update about our district site council meeting. When I try to print off the report, it doesn't print the scrolling screens down, so all you get is like the first sentence. So I'm going to just go over what we've accomplished this year and then what our goals for next year should be for our accreditation. We have completed our first 16-page. It's a 16-page initial report. It talks about some of the things that we feel are challenges in our district, such as free and reduced lunch, foster care, the shelter, those types of things. And then we also list some of our positives, which is like our early childhood, or we have communities in schools, we have JAG, we have programs to help kids. So we list a lot of those. It talks about how we selected our R's, and the way we did that, we had a walkthrough with Michael Kuntz from Greenbush, and he brought out all of the rubrics, and there are 5 different rubrics for accreditation. And as a district staff, we just had, we divided them into teams, and they came in and they put marks on where they thought we fit in on that rubric. And I took all those results and compiled the percentages, and we selected our rubrics, which are relationships and responsive culture. Rigor was also one that was graded low, and as a committee, we thought, if we're going to try to work on rigor and tougher in the classroom and more focused, we need to make those relationships and have that responsive culture first. We felt like that would be important to make relationships with the kids and with their families and the community, so that when we go in and we start working on the rigor, which would probably be in our next cycle, that it would help us get some foothold on, pushing and making sure that we get a good push for rigor. So we took those 2 R's. We had our outside visitation team meeting. They met this spring. Our president is Johnny Lawrence from Chanute High School. He is currently finishing up our end of the year report. We have a report that's due each year that we upload to KSDE. They kind of look at it to make sure we're on track. We are currently on track with all of our KISA standards and things like that, so we're okay there. Some of the things that we're going to have to do next year, we're going to need to have, each building should have 2 goals related to our rubrics, the 2 R's that we picked. We're working on those. We'll leave some of that for the new principal here to kind of help guide and where they want to go with their goals. After that, we will start to compile our artifacts, which is all the data that we have from our site council meetings, any in-services that we have, ways that we can prove we're working on our rubrics that we're trying to become accredited in. And I think we're going to use Google Forms or Google Docs to do that. That way it can all be uploaded into one file. And then when it comes time at the end of our 5 years, we're going to have to compile all of our data, all of our artifacts. That will continue on a yearly basis through year 5 as well. There'll be another workbook to fill out next year. And the workbook is roughly 16, 18 pages. And it just talks about your positives and what you're working on and why you selected your R's. So now it'll get more in depth as we go from year 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. So you'll start to see more information about our artifacts and what actually are we doing now that we've selected our goals. And we will schedule our professional development around our goals. And then it will look different at each school, but it's going to contain the same, it has to be in those 2 R's, relevance and responsive culture and relationships. And then what we decide to do with that, we'll compile that into a report at the end of next year, and so on through the 5th year. And after the year 5 is when we will present for our accreditation for the whole system. So it's a long process. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of meetings. There's going to be different stakeholder groups that we'll meet with. But we are just getting started, but we're right on track with our timeline and have met all of our deadlines, and so I don't expect there to be any issues after year 1.
So Mr. Lawrence, though, our chairman, is going to Missouri, and he's not going to continue, but I did talk with Jeanette Luthi, and she will be our chair next year. So
yeah, that's good.
I have a question. This may sound a little crazy, but what building relationships, our teacher, we should know how to do that automatically, but aren't there some tools that can be used to help and foster
Absolutely.
more nurturing type of?
There are. Obviously, one of our big emphasis this year was on traumatic experiences for children. That's kind of where we focused this year at both the high school and middle school level, was to understand that these traumatic experiences cause developmental delays in the brain. They act out. It's their defense mechanism. Kids get into fight or flight. So that's what we really focused a lot on this year, on not taking those things personal. They're not mad at so-and-so teacher. They're upset at the situation, and their street skills and their survival skills are to act out, get in trouble, and they get removed from that situation. So we spent a lot of time on that this year, working with staff and understanding maybe what triggers these kids. You know, when they get to high stress levels and their stress levels go up, they tend to react, and they don't really think things through, because in the past, you know, when you react and get upset and get angry and you do whatever, you're removed from that situation. So we're really working on not removing from that situation. We may need to give them a little bit of a timeout, kind of get their breath and composure, but we want to keep them involved. So that's one thing that we're working on with relationships. There's other things that we do. We utilize some TED Talks and some things like that. You would think building relationships is easy, but it's not necessarily as easy as it looks. You know, sometimes we as adults have a hard time giving up a little bit to let these kids kind of react and handle things, and it takes some give and take, and so that's where there's a lot of love and compassion that needs to take place, and those things go back and forth. But I think we're working in the right direction on how to build relationships, not just with the students, but the families and the community, because it all goes together.
And then help me out. I'm not exactly sure what a responsive culture means.
Kind of what we're trying to do with responsive culture is taking information from our community, our stakeholders, seeing where we're at. Let's say we're having trouble with, our reading scores are low, or our test scores are low. Taking that information, responding to that, utilizing our stakeholders in the community, and trying to come together for one good, instead of us saying, well, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we do it, and we're just going to move on down the road. So it takes a team effort to respond and be, nurturing and caring and all that, because we can do it, but if we don't respond and have that relationship with anybody else, they're not going to get anything accomplished.
Okay. Any further questions from Mr. Rogers? Great. Thank you very much tonight. We'll go on to middle school, Mr. Cox.
Oh, wait a minute, can we talk about honor flight real quick?
Oh, yeah, we got honor flight.
I forgot about that, sorry. That's the itinerary. It is a very busy, action-packed 2 days. We're leaving at 12:30, hopping on a bus, driving to Kansas City, getting on the plane, and going straight to work. I'll be honest with you, though, I think our kids are way more tired than our veterans, because our veterans come back and they're just talking, and the kids are all sleeping on their shoulder the whole bus ride back and just worn out. But the veterans really enjoy it. We're looking forward to it. It's getting close. All the kids have been telling me, I called my veteran, I talked to my veteran. They're all excited and ready to get going. And like I said, a lot of our kids have never been out of Parsons or even out of the state, let alone seen a veteran and a hero and get to live those experiences as they talk about them. So that's the itinerary. Again, we'll get back very late. We'll go to Girard first, but we'll get back very late on the 22nd, and we're going to leave very late on the 20th. So busy, busy, busy time. But well worth it.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay, our middle school report. The last couple of weeks has been a whirlwind of field trips. The 8th graders went to Day at the K, and we learned about science and weather science and learned from the meteorologist from Fox 4. They put on several displays on how a cloud forms and how weather affects us all in different areas. Our 7th graders went to Topeka, and they visited the Capitol and the zoo, and they all had a good time. 6th grade went to Wichita to the Museum of World Treasures. And I don't know what is at the Museum of World Treasures, but our kids came back super excited to learn more about social studies and some other things. So that was really a good thing. Linda already stole the thunder about the 8th grade promotion on at 6 o'clock on the 16th. So we encourage everyone to come out and watch that. Also on the 16th is our middle school spring fling. It's our day of celebration for the end of the year and being successful at all the things that we do there. It's a fun activity day where we develop those relationships that Mr. Rogers talked about. We'll have inflatables, we'll have kickball, we'll have a selfie music room station, we have snow cones coming. We've set it up so that our 8th grade class that will be promoted that night will all be together all day long, so they'll get to be with each other and work through the day and at those stations. Our staff will be there to support and be part of the celebration with them. And then in the afternoon, they'll go to the promotion practice and awards ceremony. And the 6th and 7th graders then flip and come outside after having a shortened schedule where they meet all the classes and do those activities. And that's what we've got going on at the middle school. It's really a busy time, and we're all excited about the summer coming, but we're also excited about next year starting. So.
And Mrs. Ray her son, John Ray,
Yes.
was commissioned today as a 2nd lieutenant, and she went to his pinning ceremony.
Correct.
So.
I have a question. So when 8th graders come over to the high school for a visitation, do they get spiels from like the debate teacher and the music teacher from
Mr. Rogers is.
Hosts from the coaches for like football or basketball, so that we're all transitioning?
Do they get them from the coaches or
Coaches
just?
actually go over there and meet with them.
Yes.
there first.
And so we've had over the last week, the football coach came over today. Kurt Freeze came over and talked to the kids about football and getting them excited about joining the program. The softball and cross-country coach is coming tomorrow to talk about those experiences. And so we've got them lined out so as they get closer to that freshman experience, they're not losing it in transition when we've been to the high school back in April. So it's still fresh in their mind when they come over.
And Dust Kickers, she was there last week.
Dust Kickers is there, and they're having tryouts this Saturday. And so it's just, again, it's a whirlwind of information for the 8th graders. They just enrolled and got their schedules for freshman year, and my son came home with his, and he's like, look what I got. And I'm like, right on, dude.
And we still do St. Pat's?
St. Pat's.
St. Pat's as in?
Do they come to, or do they go to
visit.
St. Pat's? I'm not sure.
I don't know that we go to St. Pat's.
What'd you say, they come to the high
They
school?
come here and our coaches go there and meet with them on their schedule.
Okay. And we still have the cooperative agreement with them for middle school athletics.
That's okay, good. Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Moving on to elementary.
Mr. Freeze was coming at 6:30.
Good thing he got here a little early.
I texted him.
All right, so at Lincoln, we've been really busy, and you can just feel the excitement of the end of the year. First grade visited Garfield on April 30th, and they got to go around to all the 2nd grade classrooms and their specials classes and got to see Garfield. I think we wrapped up all of our field trips today. Upcoming things tomorrow, first grade's going to have a Purple Cow Day where they're going to learn about ice cream and how it's made. And I think a couple of teachers are going to dress up like cows and read a book. So, and on the 16th, kindergarten's going to have their Fun in the Sun. And then on the 17th, we're going to have a talent show, and it's a class talent show. So some of the classes have put together acts, and that's going to be at 1 o'clock. So we've got some busy stuff for the rest of the week, and we're just all excited there.
I want to thank the school board and the district office for the staff appreciation treats. And we had lots of treats from various places. One of them was Pete's Convenience Store donated candy bars to all the teachers, so we appreciate that. On May 1st, the 2nd graders went to George Washington Carver's historic site, and they came back saying the teachers said it was the best trip they'd ever been on there due to having really good guides. And then on May 10th, the third graders went to Fort Scott's National Historic Site, and they came back and said the very same thing. It was the best one ever due to the guides. And I guess high school students from the area put on demonstrations. They said they did a really good job. And then May 2nd, we had 3 students that medaled in the Special Olympics competition. And May 4th, our second graders read poems in the park for our Pennies for Poems. And from the community, the police and the fire department both came. And Lincoln students walked over. It was quite the walk. And it gives the students, I think, a wonderful public speaking opportunity. And people throw their pennies in the little buckets when they read. And so they raised over $200 from that. And last year they were able to buy some science kits for the classroom with the money. And the last thing is, on our last day, this Thursday at 1 o'clock, will be our awards assembly.
Guthrie's is pretty similar. It's been a whirlwind of activity. We've had a lot of things going on, a lot of celebratory stuff, but at the same time trying to stay academic. We finished up our map testing and had some pretty strong results. We finished up our last writing piece. So tomorrow, the teachers in the morning will all assess that writing piece, and Mr. Kroll and Candy Taylor and myself and Mr. Gross will referee 4 kickball games. If you want to come watch kickball tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, we have a couple rules. If you pitch it poorly, the kid that just made it out gets to go to third base. And if you swing that looks like a bunt, you're out. So we'll play kickball tomorrow. And then we're going to have a little family water park day. Miss Armstrong works really hard on that, and the kids enjoy it, and they make some water slime and throw it at each other. So, and our last day we'll have our award ceremony, we have a talent show, and we'll have a cookout. So, and last Friday we had a little family picnic. Had about 105 of our kids with their parents show up. It was a good turnout. Listened to some music, made some hot dogs. Teachers worked out in the sun. It was a good time. Finished the year strong.
Any questions? Right. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Okay, having no old business, we will move on to new business on the agenda. 10.0 action to accept the donations to schools.
And we have, thanks to the Veterans Honor Flight, we have a lot of donations. Stacy Taylor gave a bike from the middle school for $100. Garfield Elementary PTO gave reading counts inflatables for $500. Lincoln Elementary PTO provided $276 for paper supplies. The Interstate Studio unrestricted $611. And the Parsons Educational, no, it's not the Educational, the Parsons Area Community Foundation, the Merlin and Charlene Taylor Family Fund gave $1,600 for iPads and portable carts to Lincoln. At the high school, where the remainder is from the Area Foundation, Merlin and Charlene Taylor Fund gave $10,000 for the high school robotics Humvee programs. They also gave $3,500 to the high school journalism department for new cameras. Roger Deroni gave an assortment of power tools batteries for $272. Miscellaneous, $150 to the National Honor Society. Woodward Estates gave $200 to the National Honor Society. Commercial Bank gave $50 to the National Honor Society. Eye Care Associates gave $50 to the National Honor Society. One of our students, Brian Thornton, who worked in Project Fear, donated $149 to the choir department. Robbie Martin gave $50 for welding. James Vietti gave $100 to the welding program. Neil and Pat Wilkerson gave $50 for the Veterans Honor Flight. An anonymous donation of $14 to the Honor Flight. Terry and Melanie Elliott gave $50 to the Honor Flight. Cheryl and Bill Bowen gave $50 to the Honor Flight. Bleacher Gear gave $50 to the Honor Flight. Upscale Country gave $1,000 to the Honor Flight. Pete Saveri gave $150 for the Honor Flight. Commercial Bank gave $250 to the Honor Flight. Strategic Partners gave $5,000 to the Veterans Honor Flight. Finley Malone gave $50 to the Honor Flight. Bowen Pharmacy gave $250 to the Honor Flight. Hair Productions gave $25 to the honor flight. Forbes Hoffman gave $50 to the honor flight. Wave Wireless gave $150 to the honor flight. Power Flame gave $100 to the honor flight. Jim and Priscilla Lubers gave $200 to the honor flight. The Beaumont Fly-In, which is between here and Wichita, they had a fly-in, it raised $944 they gave to the honor flight. The Paint Party, which was, they painted, it brought in $580 for the honor flight. Sonic Drive-In brought in $100 for the honor flight. Melissa Morris gave $100 to the honor flight. The donation cans of $239. Labette Bank gave $1,000 to the honor flight. So for a grand total of $28,000, that's quite impressive. So thank you, everyone.
Entertain a motion to accept those donations.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept those donations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 10.1, action to set special Board of Education meeting for CASB board training session. It's kind of stated there. We kind of concurred July 9th was a good date of the ones presented, so we just now need to know whether we want to do it in the morning or the afternoon for our half-day session rather than going all day. There were several of you that didn't want to go all day, so we're proposing a half-day. Is there any consensus on morning or afternoon?
For what length of time?
4 hours, just
4
half day,
hours.
so it's just figure half day, so like a 8 to noon or a 1 to
What
5
day of the
or
week
something.
is that?
July 9th, I don't know, let's figure that out.
It's a Monday.
That's what I was thinking, probably a Monday, yeah. Yeah, Monday,
Has to be an afternoon for me.
okay. Afternoon work for everyone on July 9th or not?
Yes?
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
Let's wait to hear from the guy who's coming. Let's just kind of say afternoon and then we'll figure out the exact times.
Okay,
So
afternoon.
let's kind of tentatively say afternoon and we'll figure out a time. So. Okay, I'd entertain a motion on that.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded to set that special Board of Education meeting for the afternoon of July 9th with the exact times pending. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 10.2, action on addendum to renew fixed price food service contract with OPA. Need any major discussion on that? Or?
Tanya, and she's here if you have any questions. Or
Does anybody have
Amber?
any questions on it? I mean, we're continuing with OPA. You're going to see that there's a proposal to increase meal prices by 10 cents for the following year, so.
And that increase is what OPA is increasing.
Yeah. So.
Have the federal food guidelines changed any and loosened or tightened or the same?
I think they're about the same, are they not, Tanya?
They're about the same. We did not have to raise prices this year, but we chose to because OPA raised prices since we raised prices. It was not a requirement to raise prices like the next year.
But if OPA, you know, where we don't want to get is subsidizing our food service program, and that's where we were several years ago. So if we continue to raise the prices, and the government subsidy will probably go up a little bit, but it's the people that have to pay full price for the lunches and breakfasts that are really affected the most.
Okay. It's 10.2. Entertain a motion on that.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to renew that contract with OPA. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 10.3, action on meal prices for 18-19 school year. So that was kind of what I discussed. It's a 10-cent increase, which is pretty standard the last several years.
And food costs do go up. Amber, can you tell us how many students are on full price or an estimate?
We have about 58%.
58% are on
paid.
a paid, either reduced or full pay?
74% is on reduced and free, and the balance of that is on paid.
So about 30%, about 30% are on paid. The rest of them are on reduced or free. Oh, Barb probably knows that too, because she does all those calculations. And most of that is from the middle school down, because the high school, you know, once you're a junior and senior, you go out and pay more.
So this is in line with other schools that have OPA, pretty much?
Yes.
I asked that question of their management, they said yes, they were doing this across the board.
And I just caution us not to get, we were subsidizing at one point almost $100,000 into our food service program.
How did we get into that? I mean, what did we do wrong?
Well, it was when we were doing our own and just food cost and, you know, OPA, it's a for-profit. They operate, and what they also do, they buy in such volume. And when we're one school, we can't buy in volume. And then our costs are much more expensive.
Right. Forgot that.
Make a motion to approve the food prices for next year.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those meal prices as presented, which result in essentially a dime increase across the board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 10.4, action on the out-of-state trip for Skills USA Nationals, Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, this is 3 students and their sponsor, and they're going to be driving to Louisville. It's about a 9-hour trip, I believe, but Travis thought he could do it, just take their time and go.
Who's the sponsor?
Trevor Meserel, yeah,
Oh, cool.
Meserel.
Good job.
And this was, okay, they came to the board meeting, remember the diabetes little video clip that they did for us? That's the group of kids.
So we're suggesting a total of 3,100, then the 2,000 and the 1,100. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Hotel, a little over 2,000, additional cost of 1,100. So do we need to put a limit? It says hotel and registration are a little over 2,000.
Well, and the hotel and the registration costs are to get into the conference, and that hotel is, I mean, that's where the convention would be.
Okay. So in the past, what we've done is we've kind of set a limit so that we don't have an open checkbook. We've got a little over 2,000, and so I'm just wondering what you are proposing that limit to be. Would it be, 3,200 since the 2,000 and the 1,100 are 3,100, or do we need to go a little higher? What are your thoughts?
There is, on an out-of-state, it's $30 for the sponsor for a meal.
And there's going to be meals. Okay.
But there is a limit on the sponsor's meals at $30. What do you do from normally students, Matt?
$20 a day. I
So-
figured the food price was going to be, if I remember correctly, I think $300.
Was that for the kids and the sponsor?
That's just the kids. The sponsors are usually, they pay theirs and are reimbursed.
Okay.
But it's 30 a day for out-of-state, so.
Correct.
Okay. So we got 300, that's 14 and 2,000.
And then the cost of the gas.
I figured 800 for gas, or 500 for gas, I'm sorry.
And meals. So the 1,100 includes the meals and the gas. I
The meals
apologize.
and the
That-
gas.
Yeah, okay. So, all right. So I think probably, since hotel and registrations are a little over 2,000, we've got the 1,100 here for the gas and the meals. I think 3,200 is probably a good limit. Should cover it. Any discussion on that or questions from Mr. Rogers?
No, I think he does a great job with these kids, and I think that's well-deserved. So I would, if anyone doesn't have any else, I would
He's got an
move
impressive agenda. So.
to approve the Skills USA to Nationals in Louisville not to exceed $3,200.
I second. Oh, go ahead.
And thank you for helping me with his name. I hate to massacre it on TV.
So we moved and seconded to approve that out-of-state trip for Skills USA to Nationals in Louisville, not to exceed $3,200. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 10.4A, which is our addendum, action on out-of-state trip for the National Speech and Debate Tournament in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So you've kind of got that, the specifics laid down there. There could be, I'm told, from speaking with Mr. Gilmore's parents a little change where there could be some flight travel rather than traveling by vehicle, which would add cost in one area but reduce cost in another. So I still think that this 2,500 is a legitimate number from the estimates I've seen. So I think that's.
But I think we need to clarify if they're going to fly, it will be one sponsor and one student.
Yeah, so that's
So-
part of the reduction. Also, fuel price is part of the reduction, but then there would be an increase potentially for airfare. So we can evaluate that. I think what we need to do is approve the 2,500 and then hope that it's lower than that if there are changes and so forth. So.
Well, I would, if there's no more any more questions, I would move that we approve the out-of-state trip for the national speech and debate in Fort Lauderdale not to exceed $2,500.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve that action on the out-of-state trip, national speech and debate in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 10.5, first reading of the 18-19 District Student Parent Handbook.
And Mr. Martino came in today, and we made a few changes, nothing major on it. There was an instance of QPA still listed in there, and QPA is over. We took that out. There was some wording that Mr. Martino said he thought one of the things was we had in isolation, and really it's just separation from the group. It's not, isolation used to mean you were in a room and the door was shut, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about separation from a group. It's on page 10 and 11. On page 10, it's number 4, and on page 11, it's number 5. So we corrected that. I did check the discrimination process, and what we have is what they're recommending from the state and KASC. On page 28, the QPA, we removed it. And then there was something else, but I'm not, then we took out, it said in here about Jim Fay. We no longer do Jim Fay. And thanks to Mr. Martino and his proofreading, what page was that on? I took it out, but it was talking about.
Page 6 was Jim Fay.
Page 6. And we just removed the Jim Fay statement, using the Jim Fay model of love and logic under number 6. And this was basically the same as last year, only we just needed to update it with dates and changes.
There's no action tonight.
No, it's just a first reading, but I just wanted to tell you what Mr. Martino had.
I challenge everybody else to find something.
Well, it is tedious reading.
And we will.
But this was only the first reading, so.
Okay, thank you very much. 10.6, action to approve reemployment of licensed staff for 18-19. Got a list of those licensed staff on page 31.
Move to approve reemployment of licensed staff, 2018-19.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the reemployment of the licensed staff listed on page 31 for the 18-19 school year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 10.7, action to approve reemployment of classified staff for 18-19. They are also listed subsequently.
Move
Page
to
32.
approve classified staff.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the reemployment of classified staff for 18-19 school year, listed on page 32. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 10.8, executive session to discuss personnel matters from elected personnel. Employee negotiations. What kind of time do you need?
30 minutes.
Okay, then we probably better go 40. So I would entertain a motion for 40 minutes on the executive session if someone wants to make it.
I'll move that we go into executive session to discuss personnel matters for non-elected personnel and employer-employee negotiations for 40 minutes. Is that what we agreed on?
Yeah, I'll give the times here momentarily. Is there a second on that?
Second?
Okay, so it has been moved and seconded that we go into executive session to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under the Kansas Open Meetings Act and to discuss negotiations proposals with PNEA pursuant to the exception for employer-employee negotiations under the Kansas Open Meetings Act. 6:52 for a period of 40 minutes, and we'll return back in this room at 40 minutes later, which would be 7:32. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, we are back in open session. We're moving on to item 10.9, action on personnel. We have a number of items to resolve here, so Mrs. Prell.
The resignations effective at the close of the 17-18 school year. Tim Endicott, high school mathematics. Katie Queen, Lincoln kindergarten aide. Kim Spillbush, Lincoln Title I aide. I'd recommend you accept these resignations.
Move to approve the resignations.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those resignations. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Recommendations for employment effective at the 18-19 school year. Lexi Brown, Guthridge School ETR aide. Mary Carson, Garfield Title I aide. Kurt Fries, head high school football. Tamara Harrison, high school secretary. Russ Head, high school audio video. Ariana Jackson, Lincoln kindergarten aide. Melissa Nance, high school dust kicker sponsor. Matt Shields, Guthridge 5th grade. Annie Smith, Guthridge school instructional aide. Nancy Steinert, high school mathematics. Jamie Stover, middle school secretary. Deontay Wade, high school physical education and high school assistant football. Darcy Wall, middle school social studies. I'd recommend you accept these employments.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept those employment recommendations. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
We have a resolution in regard to non-renewal of a teacher's contract. It's recommended the resolution on page 33 in regard to the teaching contract of Terry J. Azamber be adopted by the board.
There's a copy there on page 33. We will all need to sign that before we leave. And so make sure that you've read that before you vote. We need to, hopefully you read it. Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the resolution as printed on page 33. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving to 10.10, Board of Education requests. Are there any Board of Education requests?
To set the special meeting.
Well, we don't know exactly when that's going to
Okay.
be, so we're going to have a special meeting here
Okay, I'll
this
just
week at some
email
point
you.
in time, but you will let us know, and then if
Call
we
you.
need to change that, we will.
Okay, I'll do that in the morning, first thing.
All right?
And I just wanted to say that I thought the speaker we had for graduation was excellent. The committee who chose, I mean, it was a very
I'll
good.
echo that.
It was very, very
Good
good.
man, yep.
And it was short and
Yes.
to the point.
Yeah.
Impactful, yep. Okay. All right. We are adjourned.
Oh, listen to that thunder.